Good morning everyone, welcome to Flowerjoos. Now we've had a lot of requests over the last couple of years to basically see our garden or see the garden that I have. So I tend to enjoy using some garden material in some of the designs that I do, and last year we actually moved house. We moved in May to a new house, so we had quite a lot of work to do. We've done different things inside like heating and some windows and that as well. There's still a lot to do, but the garden was very overgrown and very shaded, and I've had to do quite a lot of work in there as well. So I thought I'll just give you a quick tour of our garden today, basically because it's been really nice weather, it's really sunny, and I've been out in the garden, so I've thoroughly enjoyed pottering about. But also, if you see the video now, then you'll be able to, we'll do one later in the summer and you'll see the difference. So hopefully it's going to be much more abundant and lots of nice things. So at the moment I'm standing up on our balcony, and that is our garden at the back of the house. So you can see that there's a bit of a pergola, a bit of a kind of covered area, and yeah, that's where we park the car basically. But we'll start up here, and I'll start at the front door, or the front gate, and we can take it from there. So this is our front gate, and it's interesting because there's quite a lot of trees, and we sit back off the street, which is great. So just walking up, we've got this great big hedge. Now I'll show you a photograph of what it used to be like. It was about 8 or 10 feet taller, and it was completely overgrown, but now it's looking a lot better. So quite a big house, but as I say, we sit back off the street, off the main road, so this is just like some rough ground, but it's got some really nice trees. So let's have a look and see what we've got. On this side we've got the bins. I'm actually going to try this yucca plant outside. So this is really an indoor yucca plant, and this was a cutting that was off it. But I think this is quite a dry spot, it's quite sheltered. I think it could survive the winter. We now live in Hungary, and the winters can be quite cold. Saying that, this is 3 years that we've been here now, and the coldest it's got is about -9. But it can go below -20. This border here I've created, and I've put out some of our tender succulents like this agave. So we have got what do you call it, South African thing, red hot poker, calanchos. This is oleander. I've got some bigger ones upstairs on a balcony. This is a choice palm, so it should be winter hardy, but what I will do is in the winter I'm going to give it a bit of winter protection. And also the agave, this one's got really big, and it's an absolute nightmare for actually getting inside and outside, so I'm going to try and leave it outside and give it lots of protection. I've got a backup plant that's about half the size, so I won't be stuck. So essentially here we've got our tropical border, and behind it I've planted lots of cannas. So you're going to have the high fence or the high hedge, and then big cannas behind it, and just on the left here is a fig tree as well. So interesting. And then just down there is going to be some more kind of herbaceous things. I've actually got some rhubarb, because I think rhubarb looks great in a border. It just looks big and interesting, and that's a good spot for it because it gets some sun. Down here we've got some privet and some tall grasses. There's zebra grass, and again some cannas, and that is my big supply of ivy hiding behind the garage. So yeah, we've still got to paint the house, lots of work to do. But this is the front, and at the front we've got the most beautiful wisteria and 2 pear trees. The interesting thing with these pear trees is that they're really, well, the one on the left, the smaller one, is like an eating pear, but this one is a pear that you would use to make palinka, which is a popular spirit here, which is a bit like schnapps. So they're quite hard, they're not very nice to eat, but you can chop them up, ferment them, and make alcohol. So in these borders here, I've got lamb's ears, I've got rosemary, daylilies, irises, heuchera. I've put in quite a few bulbs. As you can see, it's been very, very dry here. But we've got this lovely pergola as well at the front. Now it's interesting, I say that we're in the town. We are in the town, we're on a main road, and right opposite us is a garage. But this bit of ground here and the bit to the side are basically empty ground, and we have the pleasure of chickens and sheep living there sometimes. So I put in some really nice bulbs this year. So we've got some lovely Narcissus, and this is, sorry for wiggling about, this is a lemon tree that was grown from seeds, so just from a pip from a lemon. And I was really disappointed that it's not flowered, it's not produced any lemons whatsoever. The one that's lying on the top of the soil is actually a fake one. So what I've done is I've got a friend who's got a lemon tree that has flowered and has lemons on it. So I have tried a little graft. There's lots of videos online showing you how to graft lemons. I've had a look at it, it's been on for a week and a half and it seems to have taken. So at least I know on one section I'm going to get some lemons. But yeah, that's our lemon tree, and I think it looks really good. And this is the front of the house. So quite a nice wee area here just for, well, looking at the blossom and being sheltered from the main road basically. And that's looking down our garden. This terrace here has got some really old roses, but also all our grapes. So last year we had a really good harvest of grapes, and that was without having cut them or done anything at all. This year I've trimmed all the grapes and we should hopefully get quite a good crop. So the great thing with the grapes is it's giving a lot of protection from the hot sun, but we're also getting that from some of these trees. So this area here, it's a little bit scrappy. There's lots of cannas going right down the side in this border. But this area I haven't really changed at all. All I did was put in my Japanese inspired lantern a la Pinterest, which is just made from bricks and slabs, which I think works pretty well. And this area is a nice area for the summer. We just set it up for sitting. These need to be cleaned at the moment, and it's not quite warm enough for putting out the cover. So I think in about a week's time we'll do that. So this is really the main garden. Now in Hungary everyone tends to have like a yard, and the yard is where you get on with all the work. What I'm going to do with these pots here is they're full of mint, so I should have a really good supply of about 5 different types of mint for the summer. And this bed here that I've just made, I've filled it with cannas as well. So this is going to give a little bit of protection to the sitting area. And what I did last year was behind that seat, under the tree, I put out my yuccas and a few houseplants as well. So they got a little bit of protection from the hot sun. Now you're probably thinking, what is that red thing? That red thing was our heat exchanger in our wood fire, and we had it changed. It needed to get redesigned, and we thought, oh, it's pretty cool. So just gave it a bit of a paint, and it's a bit of a feature. And the sculpture on top we used to have at work. Now we had 2 of them and one got broken, and we needed 2 for where they were getting used. And this one I ended up using for some demonstration work, but it did get broken and it's been fixed and glued. But it still looks great and it looks good in the garden, but you can see that it is broken, but it looks good from a distance. I've got some bamboo. This is a date palm and some strawberries. And these pots with this little magazine stand, these were actually in the shed when we moved into the house, and they did really well last year on the kitchen window, and now they're just looking great again. So I've taken some cuttings, but I'm really loath to put out the old plants. I know you're meant to just kind of regenerate them, but you know, it's really nice not throwing things out, to be honest. Now this hedge here was absolutely massive, and we took about 8 to 15 foot off the top, and it used to go right down the side. So essentially I've taken it out. What I have done is I've created a bit of a pergola with the ones on the right hand side are the original trees, and they're still rooted in the ground, and then the ones on the left were from the other trees, and I just moved them across. In this border here we've got a banana, so it's a winter hardy banana, and there's actually a baby version in this border behind the magnolia tree. This outbuilding was covered in wood, and it had an asbestos roof. There's a lot of asbestos roofs in Hungary, which is fine as long as you don't eat them, which isn't going to happen. So what I've done is I've basically stripped it all off, and we've used this see-through corrugated material to create a bit of a greenhouse. But we'll just go down the garden first. Now, rather than buy bark, we have a wood fire, and what I did was I sat and stripped off a lot of the bark. So I just stripped it off with a little hand axe. I left this one chunky, and in this border here, what I did was I put the bark through a wood shredder. So like you would for big sticks and twigs, and it's given me lots and lots and lots of mulch, which is great. Now where you see these little grey bits of pipe, that's where I've planted dahlias. The danger is I'm very good at planting things, not remembering where they are, and then end up trying to put something on top. But what I've tried to do with the garden is grow things that are useful for flower arranging. So there's Fatsia, euonymus, I've planted clematis and honeysuckle. The conifers are great. Camellia, I love the foliage on camellia, and because we're slightly sheltered with trees here, I think they'll do okay. I just need to keep an eye on the watering. In this border you're probably thinking, what are those purple orchids? They're actually artificial, and if you remember, this was a video that we did showing how to use agri-wool and make like a moss covered heart, and after I made the video I just put it out in the garden, and it's survived really well. So it's kind of interesting that you can do that. Looking up the garden then, we've got a little bit of a water feature, and over on this side is really my vegetable garden, or vegetable garden to be. I've got a couple of raised beds, I've dug a couple of borders, and I've been setting up some barrels as well. So we can go and have a little look at that in a minute. But this is in the centre of town, and we're actually surrounded by trees and by fields. What I'm really doing with these fences is they're not good. The conifers are horrible. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to propagate lots of privet and nicer hedging material, and what I'll do is basically plant them at the bottom, and when they get established I'll start bringing the height of the other bits down. But what we've got here is we've got a workshop, we've got a garage that I use for all my gardening stuff, I've got a storeroom for flower things, and then the garage that we actually use. But this I was really pleased with. I was going to make a little lean-to at the back, and then I just kind of thought we could just change this storage area. This had our firewood in it, and make a little bit of a sunroom. Now it's a bit gappy, which is not a bad thing because in the summer it gets very hot. But what a great space. And this was a little workbench I made out of a pallet. So a great area just to pot things up and get organised. So really my thought with this area was to get bedding plants and vegetables started in little pots, get them established so they're a good size, and then they can go out into the garden. So let's have a wee look at this vegetable garden. Now, when we bought the house, you couldn't get in here at all. You had to basically just look at it because it was full of nettles, full of weeds, and it had 2 very large apple trees. So what I've done is I've reduced the apple trees considerably to allow some light in, reduced the height of the hedges again, and put down a lot of mulch on the ground. Now, I don't really know what the soil is like, whether it's got any contamination, because obviously this was the back of a yard. So I have built a couple of raised beds as well. But at the back here used to be a pig pen and a hen house, but they're now gone, so that's where that concrete base is. So it's a bit rough and ready, but it's going to be a nice little space for just getting things started. Last year I didn't know what to do with all my dahlias when we moved, so I just put them into the ground here. So that is really the garden, and all you hear here is birdsong. It's absolutely beautiful. So as I say, that's the little baby banana. I've put in some dogwood because I love the stems of dogwood. All under here is lily of the valley. So there's lots of things, and this is really going to be a work in progress. So I think if you had an image that I had an absolutely beautiful garden that was military beautiful, then no, it's a bit rough and ready, and it's definitely a place to potter and just relax and enjoy, get the barbecue out, and not be too stressed. This area here at the back of the house was actually a big door, but they'd obviously closed it up at one point, and we've removed the door. When we first got the house, you couldn't even see the staircase or the frame that was there. It was just covered in ivy. So I took it right back, and now it's looking, well, it obviously needs finished, but it's allowed better access for a vehicle, and it's tidied that corner up a bit. So we'll just walk back down this way. What's nice about this garden is it's enclosed, it's quiet. I know there is a few cars go past, but really it is very quiet. And this I'm loving, having something kind of exotic here. And it's good that big agave is out of the spare room, because every time you went in there you got jabbed. And that's our lovely garden. Every year I want to just keep adding tulips to this. I've put a lot of tulips in, and it's still a bit early for them coming up. So there you go. So I hope you've enjoyed our garden tour. As I say, what I'm going to do at the end of the summer or during the summer when things are looking really good is just run round again and take some pictures, and you'll really see hopefully a big difference. We're still just the end of March here. The weather is really nice. We're definitely on the turn. I hope we don't get any really cold nights, but I hope you've enjoyed just having a little walk around the garden, seeing where we are, and look forward to showing you how it turns out later in the year. So have a good week, stay safe, and we'll see you soon with our next flower design. So bye for now.